The massive alien ships appeared over Earth without warning. They came out of nothing, like ghosts becoming real. One moment the sky was empty, the next moment it was full of metal mountains floating in space. Commander Tae-min stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's biggest warship. He looked up at the alien fleet through the viewing screen. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. The alien ships were huge. Each one was bigger than any city on Earth. "Sir, they're sending a message," said communications officer Hyo Jin. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best at understanding alien languages. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Put it on screen," Tae-min said. The screen changed. An alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes, gray skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translation computer changed its words into human language. "Primitive beings of the 3rd planet," the alien said. Its voice was cold and mean. "I am High Commander, Vex of the Vareth Empire. Your world has been chosen to join our great empire as a tributary world." Tae-min felt his stomach drop. He had heard about the Vareth Empire from other alien races. They were conquerors. They took over worlds and made the people into slaves. The alien continued. "You have 30 of your days to agree to our terms. You will give us half of your food, half of your metals, and half of your people every year. In return, we will not destroy your planet." Ambassador Hyo Jin stepped forward. She was older than the communications officer, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent her whole life trying to make peace between different groups. Now she had to try to make peace with aliens who saw humans as animals. "High Commander," she said in a calm voice, "perhaps we could discuss this. Earth has always been willing to trade and work with other worlds." The alien laughed. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping against stone. "You think this is a negotiation? We have conquered 47 worlds. Your planet will be the 48th. We do not bargain with livestock." The screen went black. The alien ships continued to float above Earth, waiting. Dr. So-young was working in her laboratory deep underground when the news reached her. She was Earth's best scientist for studying alien technology. She had spent years looking at the broken pieces of alien ships that had crashed on Earth. When she heard about the Vareth demand, she ran to her computer. She pulled up all the information she had about Vareth technology. What she saw made her feel sick. Their weapons were 1,000 times stronger than anything Earth had. Their shields could stop any attack humans could make. Their ships could travel between stars in days, while Earth's best ships took months. "We can't fight them," she said to her assistant. "Not with normal weapons." But even as she said it, she was thinking. So-young had always been good at solving impossible problems. Her mind was already working on ideas that seemed crazy but might just work. Meanwhile, in the capital city, world leaders were meeting in emergency session. President Dongwu sat at the head of a long table surrounded by the leaders of every nation on Earth. The room was full of worried voices speaking in different languages. General Nari stood up. She was a small woman, but everyone listened when she spoke. She had never lost a battle in her 30 years as a soldier. "The situation is simple," she said. "We cannot win a normal war against the Vareth Empire. Their technology is too advanced. Their ships are too powerful. If we fight them the way they expect us to fight, we will lose." "Then what do you suggest?" asked President Dongwu. General Nari smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a soldier who had just thought of a very dangerous plan. "We don't fight them the way they expect," she said. We fight them the human way. In another part of the building, Dr. Boram was pulling files from a secret computer. The files were marked with warning signs and locked behind multiple passwords. They contained research that Earth's scientists had been working on for decades, research that was too dangerous to use under normal conditions. But these were not normal conditions. Boram had been working on something called Project Prometheus. It was based on theories about how to turn Earth's magnetic field into a weapon. Most scientists thought it was impossible. Boram thought it might be their only hope. Back on the Defiance, Taemin was meeting with his officers. The ship's conference room was small and cramped, but it felt safe compared to the huge alien ships outside. "What do we know about their weaknesses?" he asked. "They're arrogant," said Intelligence Officer Jaewon. He was a quiet man who spent most of his time reading alien communications that Earth's satellites picked up. "They think we're stupid because our technology looks primitive to them." "That might be useful," said Taemin. "What else?" "Their ships all talk to each other constantly," said Communications Officer Hyojin. "They share information and commands through quantum signals. It makes them very coordinated, but it might also make them vulnerable." Taemin nodded. He was starting to see the shape of a plan, but it would require perfect timing and a lot of luck. Above them, the Vareth ships continued their patrol. The aliens inside were not worried about the humans. They had conquered 47 worlds, and each conquest had been easy. The local inhabitants would fight for a while, but their weapons were always too weak and their tactics too simple. Hi. Commander Vex was reading reports about Earth's military. The humans had nuclear weapons, but they were old and slow. They had spaceships, but they could barely leave their own planet. They had armies, but they were small and scattered. "This will be over quickly," he told his officers. "The humans will see our power and surrender. They always do." But High Commander Vex was making a mistake. He was judging humans by the standards of every other race the Vareth had conquered. He thought that because human technology looked simple, human minds were simple too. He did not know that humans had been watching and learning from every alien signal that passed through their system. He did not know that Earth scientists had been studying crashed alien ships for decades. He did not know that humans were very good at making enemies underestimate them. Most importantly, he did not know that humans were the only species in the galaxy that got more dangerous when they were threatened. Down on Earth, the real work was beginning. In secret facilities around the world, scientists and engineers were pulling together technologies that had been hidden for years. They were combining human creativity with alien science in ways that no other species had ever attempted. The Vareth Empire demanded tribute from Earth. They expected the humans to surrender or to fight with primitive weapons and lose quickly. They were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. The 30-day countdown had begun. But the Vareth did not know that they were not counting down to Earth's surrender. They were counting down to their own destruction. In the depths of space, other alien races were watching. Some had been conquered by the Vareth and were hoping for revenge. Others were waiting to see if the humans would be different from all the other species that had fallen to the Empire. Earth was about to give them their answer. The next morning, President Dongwu appeared on every television screen on Earth. He sat behind his desk, looking calm and serious. Behind him, the flags of all Earth's nations hung side by side. "My fellow humans," he began. "Yesterday we received a demand from an alien empire. They want us to become their slaves. They have given us 30 days to decide." He paused, looking directly into the camera. I want to tell the Vareth Empire and anyone else who might be listening that Earth will consider their offer. We will send representatives to negotiate the terms of our surrender. Around the world, people watched in shock and anger. Many thought their president was giving up without a fight. They did not know that his words were carefully chosen to buy time for something much more important. In secret facilities hidden, deep underground, the real response to the Vareth threat was already beginning. Engineer Kehoe was running between construction sites that did not officially exist. In the mountains of Korea, teams of workers were building something that looked like a power plant, but was much more dangerous. In the deserts of Africa, similar construction was happening. In the frozen lands near the North Pole, machines were digging deep into the ice. How long do we have? Kehoe asked Dr. Yoon Seo, who was checking the progress on her tablet. 28 days, she said. Maybe less if the aliens get impatient. Kehoe wiped sweat from his face. The construction was happening faster than anything humans had ever built before. Workers were putting in 20-hour days. Machines ran constantly. The whole planet was secretly preparing for war, but the aliens above could not see it. Dr. Yoon Seo was in charge of Project Exodus, but it was not what most people would think. The name made it sound like humans were planning to run away. Instead, it was the code name for the most dangerous weapons project in human history. For 50 years, human scientists had been studying reports from aliens who had been conquered by the Vareth Empire. They had learned about the Empire's tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Now, they were going to use that knowledge. In space above Earth, the Vareth were getting bored. High Commander Vex had expected the humans to either surrender immediately or attack with their primitive weapons. Instead, the humans were doing paperwork and having meetings. Perhaps we should give them a demonstration of our power, suggested Sub-Commander Krell. Vex nodded. Choose an empty area. Destroy a mountain or an island. Show them what happens to worlds that resist us. The Vareth selected a small island in the Pacific Ocean. No humans lived there, but it could be seen from nearby populated areas. They fired one shot from their smallest weapon. The island disappeared. Where there had been land, there was now only empty water. Videos of the destruction played on every news channel on Earth. People saw the power of the Vareth weapons and became more afraid. But in the secret facilities, scientists were studying the attack very carefully. Physicist Jay Wan watched the recording of the island's destruction over and over again. He was measuring the energy output, the radiation signature, and the way the weapon beam behaved when it hit matter. Interesting, he said to his team. Their weapons are powerful, but they work in a very specific way. They expect matter to behave. Normally. His assistant looked confused. What do you mean, normally? Jaewon smiled. What if we could make matter behave abnormally? While the scientists worked on theoretical problems, Captain Subin was leading a much more dangerous mission. She was taking a small team of humans to study the Vareth ships up close. Subin's ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels. It was designed to look like space debris, just another piece of junk floating in Earth's orbit. The Vareth scanners saw it but ignored it. To them, it was too small and primitive to be a threat. This was exactly what Subin had hoped for. Her ship drifted, closer to the largest Vareth vessel. When they were only a few hundred meters away, Subin activated scanners that the aliens would never expect humans to have. These scanners had been built using technology reverse-engineered from alien crashes over the past decades. Look at this, said technician Min Ho, staring at his instruments. Their hull is made of some kind of adaptive metal. It changes its properties based on what's attacking it. That explains why their ships are so hard to damage, Subin said. But every adaptation has limits. They spent hours studying the alien ship, taking measurements and recordings. The Vareth never noticed them. To the aliens, humans were too primitive to have stealth technology or advanced scanners. This was their second big mistake. Back on Earth, the public negotiations were continuing. Ambassador Hyo-jin was meeting with Vareth representatives every day, discussing the terms of Earth's surrender. The aliens were demanding more and more. They wanted not just resources and people, but complete control over human technology and culture. "You will teach your children to worship the Vareth Emperor," the alien negotiator said. "Your schools will teach Vareth history. Your factories will produce only what we require." Hyo-jin kept her face calm, but inside she was furious. "These terms seem very harsh," she said. "Perhaps we could start with smaller tributes and increase them over time." The alien laughed. "You are in no position to bargain. Accept our terms or watch your world burn." What the alien did not know was that Hyo-jin was secretly recording everything. Every threat, every demand, every detail about Vareth culture and psychology was being studied by human analysts. Dr. Siwoo was one of those analysts. She was a specialist in alien psychology, and she was learning very interesting things about the Vareth mind. "They are completely unable to imagine that we might be planning resistance," she told the other scientists. "Their entire culture is based on the idea that they are superior to everyone else. They cannot conceive of a primitive species outsmarting them." This was valuable information. If the Vareth could not imagine human cleverness, then human cleverness would be the perfect weapon against them. Meanwhile, in the hidden construction sites, the work was accelerating. Engineer Kehoe's teams had finished the basic structures and were now installing the most secret components. These components had been designed using theories that most human scientists thought were impossible. Dr. Minho was overseeing the installation of gravitational field generators. These machines could bend space itself, creating pockets where normal physics did not work. They were based on research that humans had been doing for decades, research that the Vareth Empire had never bothered to investigate because they thought it was useless. "Will it work?" Kehoe asked. "In theory, yes," Minho said. "But we've never tested anything this big before." "We'll get our test soon enough," Kehoe replied. As the days passed, more alien ships arrived in Earth's orbit. The Vareth were preparing for the possibility that humans might try to resist. They brought bigger weapons, more soldiers, and ship-sized scanners to watch for any sign of human military preparation. But they were looking for the wrong things. They expected humans to build more spaceships, bigger nuclear weapons, or better armor for their soldiers. They did not expect humans to be rebuilding the fundamental forces of nature. On day 25 of the countdown, High Commander Vex received a message from the Vareth Emperor himself. The message was short and simple. "Do not let these primitives waste any more of our time. If they have not surrendered by day 30, begin the bombardment immediately." Vex smiled. He was looking forward to showing the humans the true power of the Empire. He had been holding back, using only demonstration attacks. Soon he would use weapons that could crack planets and burn atmospheres. But down on Earth, President Dongwu was holding a very different kind of meeting. In a bunker far underground, the leaders of every nation were gathering with Earth's top scientists and military officers. "Status report," Dongwu said. General Nari stood up. All defensive systems are in place. All offensive systems are ready. All personnel have been briefed on the plan. Dr. Boram nodded. Project Prometheus is online. We can activate it with 30 seconds notice. Engineer Kehoe added, the construction is complete. Everything is hidden and ready. President Dong Wu looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. They all looked tired, but they also looked determined. Then it's time to give the Varith Empire our real answer, he said. Above them, the Varith ships continued their patrol, confident that they were about to add another conquered world to their empire. They had no idea that Earth was about to become the graveyard of their fleet. The countdown continued. 5 more days until the Varith expected Earth's surrender. 5 more days until they learned what humans could do when their planet was threatened. Day 30 arrived with clear skies over most of Earth. In the Varith command ship, High Commander Vex was preparing for what he expected to be a routine planetary bombardment. His officers were checking weapons systems and target lists. Status of the human response? Vex asked. Their negotiator has requested one final meeting, reported Sub-Commander Krell. She says Earth's leaders need a few more hours to finalize their surrender terms. Vex made a disgusted sound. Primitive bureaucracy. Very well, we will give them until midday. After that, we begin bombardment whether they surrender or not. What Vex did not know was that the final meeting was not about surrender terms. Ambassador Hyo Jin was about to deliver a message that would change everything. At exactly noon, Earth Standard Time, every communication system on the planet activated at once. The message went out on radio, television, internet, and quantum frequencies. It was broadcast in every language humans spoke, and it was transmitted directly to every Varith ship. The message was simple, and came from Admiral Kyung-ho, commander of Earth's space forces. He appeared on screen wearing his dress uniform, standing in front of Earth's flag. To High Commander Vex and the Varith Empire, he began. You demanded tribute from Earth. You gave us 30 days to surrender. Today is day 30, and we have an answer for you. Admiral Kyung-ho paused, looking directly into the camera. Earth's reply to your tribute demand is this. Run while you still can. In the Varith command ship, the bridge fell silent. Then High Commander Vex began to laugh. These primitives think they can threaten us, he said to his officers. Show them the error of their ways. Target their largest city and fire. The weapons officer activated the planet killer beam. Energy, enough to destroy mountains, focused into a single point and fired down at Earth's surface. The beam was so powerful that it lit up the entire sky as it traveled through the atmosphere. But when the beam reached the city, something impossible happened. The city shimmered like a mirage and the beam passed right through it. The deadly energy that should have killed millions of people instead shot harmlessly into space on the other side of the planet. What? Vex shouted. Fire again! They fired again, and again. Each time, the deadly energy passed through Earth's cities like they were made of light instead of matter. Down on Earth, Dr. Minho was watching the readings from his gravitational displacement field generators. The machines he had spent weeks installing were working perfectly. They were bending space around Earth's cities, creating pockets where matter existed in a slightly different dimension. Displacement fields holding steady, he reported to the command center. All cities are safe. But the gravitational fields were just the beginning. While the Varith were trying to figure out why their weapons were not working, other systems around Earth were activating. What the aliens had thought were communication satellites suddenly began to move. They were not satellites at all, but weapons platforms that had been disguised to look harmless. Research director Hae Young had spent years designing them to look like simple metal boxes floating in space. Now they revealed their true purpose. The platforms began to emit powerful electromagnetic pulses that interfered with Vareth navigation systems. The aliens' ships, which had been moving in perfect formation, suddenly began to drift apart as their computers stopped working properly. "What is happening to our systems?" Vex demanded. "Unknown, sir," his technician replied. "Something is jamming our navigation computers. Our ships cannot maintain formation." At the same time, Earth's magnetic field itself began to change. Dr. Boram's Project Prometheus was finally activating. The hidden installations around the world were working together to turn the planet's natural magnetic field into a massive electromagnetic trap. The Vareth ships found themselves caught in invisible cages of magnetic force. Their advanced engines, which worked by manipulating electromagnetic fields, suddenly became useless. The more they tried to escape, the more tangled they became in Earth's magnetic web. "Sir," reported the Vareth navigation officer, "we cannot move. Something is holding our ships in place." For the first time since arriving at Earth, High Commander Vex felt afraid. How had these primitive humans developed technology that could trap an entire Vareth fleet? The answer was launching from hidden bases around Earth at that very moment. Captain Young-Soo was piloting the first human ship to take off during the battle. His ship looked nothing like the primitive spacecraft the Vareth had seen in their intelligence reports. It was sleek, fast, and built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology that had been captured and studied for decades. "Phantom Squadron, this is Lead," Young-Soo said into his radio. "All ships report ready. Phantom 2 ready. Phantom 3 ready." One by one, 30 human ships reported in. They had been hidden in underground hangars, disguised as research facilities and mining operations. Now they rose from the earth like avenging angels. The Vareth watched in shock as the human ships appeared on their screens. These were not the slow, clumsy vessels they had expected. These ships moved like dancers, spinning and diving through space with impossible grace. "How are they moving so fast?" asked Sub-Commander Krell. The answer was that human engineers had learned from every alien species the Vareth had conquered. Engineer Wu Jin had studied Chronari engines, Zilith navigation systems, and Malthan shield technology. Then he had combined them all with human innovations that no other species had ever tried. The result was ships that could do things the Vareth had never seen before. Young-Soo's ship phased in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing, like a ghost. The Vareth weapons could not hit what they could not see. When the human ship reappeared, it was behind the Vareth formation, firing weapons that cut through alien armor like paper. Dr. Siwoo's weapon systems were based on a simple idea. Instead of building bigger guns, build smarter ones. Her weapons analyzed the target before firing, then adapted their energy output to exploit whatever weakness they found. Against Vareth adaptive armor, which changed its properties to resist attack, Siwoo's weapons simply changed faster. The alien armor could not adapt quickly enough to keep up with weapons that were constantly evolving. "Impossible," Vex whispered as he watched his ships being destroyed one by one. "How are they doing this?" Commander Young, leading another squadron of human ships, was demonstrating humanity's greatest advantage: unpredictability. Her pilots did not follow standard attack patterns or formation tactics. Instead, they fought like humans had always fought, with creativity, adaptation, and a willingness to try things that seemed crazy. One human pilot flew directly into the path of a Vareth beam weapon, then used his ship's phase technology to let the beam pass through him and hit another Vareth ship instead. Another pilot ejected. Her ship's cargo bay, which was full of magnetic mines that attached themselves to alien hulls before exploding. The Vareth had conquered 47 worlds using the same tactics every time. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with completely new ideas in the middle of battle. "All ships, retreat to defensive formation," Vex ordered. But as his ships tried to move, they discovered that Earth's magnetic field was still holding them in place. They were trapped between human ships that could phase in and out of reality, and a planet that had turned its entire magnetic field into a weapon. The battle that the Vareth had expected to last a few hours was turning into a disaster in less than 30 minutes. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the human admiral." "Put it on screen," Vex said. Admiral Kyung-ho appeared again, but this time he was on the bridge of a human warship. Behind him, the crew was working efficiently and calmly, as if destroying a Vareth fleet was just another day's work. "High Commander Vex," Kyung-ho said, "I offered you a chance to run while you still could. That offer is about to expire. Surrender now, or we will show you what Earth does to bullies who threaten our world." Vex looked around his bridge. Half his fleet was already destroyed. The other half was trapped and helpless. His weapons could not hit the human ships, and his ships could not escape Earth's magnetic trap. For the first time in the history of the Vareth Empire, a fleet was facing complete defeat at the hands of a species they had thought was primitive. "What are your terms?" Vex asked quietly. "Unconditional surrender," Kyung-ho replied. "Your ships will be boarded. Your crews will be taken prisoner, and you will help us send a message to your empire." Vex closed his eyes. The Vareth Empire had never lost a battle. Now they had lost an entire fleet to humans who had been hiding their true capabilities for decades. "We surrender," he said. But Earth's reply was just beginning. The real war was about to start. 3 days after the surrender of the Vareth fleet above Earth, Captain Young-Soo was leading the first human expedition into deep space. His mission was simple but dangerous: find the nearest Vareth military base and destroy it before they could. Warn the rest of the Empire about Earth's true capabilities. His ship, the Soul, was one of 30 vessels in Earth's new strike fleet. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering that combined the best technology from a dozen different alien races. But more importantly, each ship was crewed by humans who had spent their entire lives being underestimated. "Captain," said Navigation, Officer Ji-Hai, "we're approaching the Proxima Relay Station. Sensors show 12 Vareth ships and a space platform." Young-Soo studied the tactical display. The Vareth station was heavily armed and shielded. Under normal circumstances, it would take 100 ships to assault it successfully, but these were not normal circumstances. "Remember the plan," Young-Soo told his crew. "We're not here to have a fair fight. We're here to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." The Soul and its escort ships approached the station using stealth technology that the Vareth had never seen before. Engineer Wu Jin had combined human radar-absorbing materials with Zilith phase shifting and Malthan light bending. The result was ships that were practically invisible. The Vareth station never saw them coming. Young-Soo's first target was the station's communication array. If the Vareth could not send messages, they could not warn their empire about the human attack. Dr. Si-Woo's adaptive weapons made short work of the alien communication equipment. "Communications down," reported Weapons Officer Taeho. They can't call for help. The Vareth ships around the station finally detected the human attack and moved to intercept. But they were using tactics designed to fight conventional enemies. Humans were anything but conventional. Lieutenant Commander Seo Jun, piloting the escort ship Busan, demonstrated this by doing something no Vareth pilot would ever attempt. She flew her ship directly into the path of an enemy missile, then used her phase drive to become incorporeal at the exact moment of impact. The missile passed harmlessly through her ship and struck the Vareth vessel that had fired it. Target destroyed, Seo Jun reported calmly, moving to next objective. This was the difference that was destroying the Vareth Empire. Their military was built on predictable tactics and overwhelming force. Human military doctrine was built on doing whatever worked, no matter how crazy it seemed. Back on Earth, Dr. Sang Min was analyzing intelligence data from the captured Vareth ships. What she was learning about the Empire was both useful and disturbing. The Vareth Empire has been using the same conquest strategy for over 200 years, she explained to the Strategy Council. They arrive at a primitive world, demand surrender, then use superior technology to crush any resistance. General Nari leaned forward. What happens to the conquered worlds? The populations become slave labor, Sang Min continued. The most intelligent individuals are taken to Vareth worlds to work in their factories and research facilities. The rest are left to extract resources for the Empire. President Dong Wu felt sick. How many worlds are we talking about? 47. Confirmed conquests. Estimated total population of enslaved beings. Over 200 billion. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. The Vareth Empire was not just a military threat. It was a crime against every living thing in the galaxy. Then we're not just defending Earth, said Admiral Kyung-ho. We're liberating the galaxy. The liberation was already beginning. Captain Hyun-woo was leading a different kind of mission to the Kepler system, where the Vareth had enslaved a species called the Trilani. Unlike the military strike at Proxima, this was a rescue operation. The Trilani were an aquatic species that had been conquered 50 years earlier. The Vareth had forced them to build underwater mining facilities that extracted rare metals from their ocean floors. The work was dangerous, and many Trilani died every year. Hyun-woo's ship, the Daegu, approached the Kepler system using a new strategy that Dr. Kyung-min had developed. Instead of hiding from Vareth sensors, they were going to fool them. Broadcasting false identification now, said Communications Officer Yu Jin. We should appear to be a Vareth supply ship on their sensors. The deception worked perfectly. The Vareth Orbital Control Center cleared them for landing without question. They had no reason to suspect that a human ship could travel this far from Earth, let alone disguise itself as one of their own vessels. Hyun-woo landed his ship near the largest Trilani settlement. The enslaved aliens were shocked to see humans emerge from what they thought was a Vareth transport. We are from Earth, Hyun-woo announced through his translator. We have come to free you from the Vareth Empire. The Trilani leader, an elderly female named Pel-Ara, could barely believe what she was hearing. Earth? But the Vareth said Earth had surrendered. They said humans were now part of the Empire. The Vareth say many things, Hyun-woo replied. Most of them are lies. Earth is free, and we're here to make sure you are free too. The liberation of the Trilani took 6 hours. The Vareth garrison was small and overconfident. They had never imagined that their slaves would rebel, especially not with help from a species they thought they had already conquered. Human soldiers, trained in urban warfare and equipped with adaptive weapons, moved through the Vareth facilities like shadows. Engineer Wu Jin's phase technology allowed them to walk through walls and appear behind enemy positions without warning. The Vareth soldiers found themselves fighting an enemy that could disappear and reappear anywhere. Their standard tactics, designed for open battlefield combat, were useless in this kind of fight. "Garrison neutralized," reported Sergeant Min Su. "All Vareth personnel are either dead or captured, but the real victory was not military. It was what happened when the Trilani realized they were truly free." Pelara wept as she watched the last Vareth transport ship explode in the atmosphere above her world. "We never thought we would see this day," she said to Hyun-woo. "For 50 years, we believed the Vareth were invincible." "They want everyone to believe that," Hyun-woo replied. "But they're not invincible. They're bullies, and bullies can always be beaten if you're willing to fight smart instead of fighting fair." The liberation of Kepler was being broadcast throughout the galaxy on frequencies that the Vareth could not block. Dr. In Young had developed a quantum communication system that used the background radiation of space itself to carry messages. On dozens of conquered worlds, enslaved populations were seeing proof that the Vareth Empire could be defeated. More importantly, they were seeing that Earth was willing to fight for the freedom of species they had never even met. This was causing panic in the Vareth High Command. Emperor Malthrex himself was demanding answers from his generals. "How did a primitive world destroy an entire fleet?" he roared in his throne room. "How are they liberating our conquered territories?" General Vorth, the Empire's military commander, had no good answers. "The humans appear to have been hiding their true capabilities, my lord. Their technology is more advanced than our intelligence indicated." "Then get me better intelligence," Malthrex shouted. "Find out how they are doing this and stop them." But stopping the humans was proving impossible. Every time the Vareth adapted to one human tactic, the humans changed to something completely different. They did not fight like any other species the Empire had encountered. Dr. Chun-hee, working in her laboratory on Earth, was making sure that human advantages would only grow larger. She had been studying the Vareth command and control systems, looking for ways to disrupt them. "I think I've found it," she told her research team. "The Vareth military relies on a central communication network. All their ships and bases are connected to it. If we can hack into that network, we could turn their own communication system against them," finished her assistant, Dr. Won-ho. "Exactly. We could shut down their entire military with a computer virus." The virus that Chun-hee developed was unlike anything the Vareth had ever seen. It was designed to spread through their communication network and gradually take control of their computer systems. The beauty of it was that the Vareth would not notice anything was wrong until it was too late. Meanwhile, on the planet Vega 7, the Vareth were learning that their problems were not limited to human military action. Ambassador In Young was meeting with representatives of enslaved species throughout the Empire. "Earth offers you alliance, not conquest," she explained to the gathering of alien leaders. "We will help you free your worlds, and in return, we ask only that you help us build a galaxy where no species enslaves another." The response was overwhelming. Species that had been enemies of each other under Vareth rule were suddenly working together to plan their liberation. The Empire's strategy of keeping conquered worlds isolated and hostile to each other was falling apart. The Rashani, reptilian miners from the Centauri system, offered to share their knowledge of Vareth mining operations. The Kelti, energy beings, from the Vega system provided information about Vareth power generation. The Osiri, insectoid engineers from the Tau Ceti system, revealed weaknesses in Vareth ship construction. Emperor Malthrex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the final preparations for the largest military campaign in Vareth history. Around his massive ship, 99 other vessels of the Crown Fleet moved in perfect formation through hyperspace. These were not ordinary Vareth ships. Each vessel in the Crown Fleet was a kilometer long and packed with weapons that could destroy planets. The smallest ship in the fleet was more powerful than the entire force that had first attacked Earth. "How long until we reach the human system?" Malthrex asked his navigator. 16 hours, my lord," came the reply. "The humans will not escape this time." Malthrex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. He had ruled the Vareth Empire for 60 years and had never lost a battle. The humans had been lucky so far, but luck always ran out. What Emperor Malthrex did not know was that human intelligence officer G1 had been monitoring Vareth communications from a hidden listening post. She had been watching the Crown Fleet since it left Vareth space. "Admiral," G1 reported to Kyung-ho from her station on the moon, "the Emperor himself is coming. 100 ships, including their flagship. They'll be here in 15 hours. Admiral Kyung-ho looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Each red dot represented a ship that could probably destroy Earth's entire defense force in a fair fight. Fortunately, humans had stopped fighting fair a long time ago. "Signal all Allied fleets," Kyung-ho ordered. "It's time to spring the trap." The trap had been months in the making. While the Vareth had been focusing on Earth's military, Dr. Sang-min had been building something much more dangerous, a network of alien allies who wanted revenge against the Empire. The Trilani, freed from their underwater mines, had shared their knowledge of Vareth ship construction. The Rashani had provided detailed maps of Vareth supply routes. The Kelti had given humans access to energy manipulation technology that the Empire had banned their subjects from using. Most importantly, the Asari had revealed the location of the Vareth Empire's greatest secret, the Central Command Node. Dr. Chun-Hee was putting the finishing touches on her computer virus as the Crown Fleet approached Earth. The virus was designed to attack the Central Command Node and turn the Vareth's own communication network against them. "Will it work?" asked her assistant, Dr. Wan-ho. "It should," Chun-Hee replied. "But we'll only get one chance. If the Vareth detect the virus before it spreads through their entire network, they'll shut down their communications and we'll lose our advantage. The virus would need to be uploaded during the battle when the Vareth communication systems were busy coordinating fleet movements. The chaos of combat would help hide the virus until it was too late to stop it." Meanwhile, Captain Young-Soo was leading Earth's expanded fleet to a position near the edge of the solar system. The human fleet had grown significantly since the first battle. Ships from a dozen liberated worlds had joined Earth's forces, creating an alliance fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "All ships report ready," Young-Soo announced to his captains. "Remember, we're not trying to win a direct fight. We're trying to keep them busy while the real attack happens." The real attack was already in motion. Captain Hyun-woo and a small team of Special Operations troops were aboard a captured Vareth transport ship, heading directly for the Central Command Node. Their mission was to infiltrate the most heavily defended facility in the Empire and upload Dr. Chun-Hee's virus. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. But it was also the only way to end the war before the Vareth Empire could send reinforcements from their other fleets. "Approaching the node," reported pilot Seo-jun. "Vareth security is scanning us. The captured transport ship, had been modified by engineer Wu Jin to fool Vareth sensors. To their security systems, it looked like a routine supply delivery. The guards never suspected that the ship was full of human commandos carrying the most dangerous computer virus ever created. Back in the Sol system, Emperor Malthrex was getting his first look at Earth's defenses. What he saw confused him. "Where are their ships?" he asked his tactical officer. "Intelligence reports said they had at least 50 vessels." "Unknown, my lord. We're only detecting a few small ships hiding behind the outer planets." Malthrex frowned. The humans had been fighting brilliantly for months. It seemed unlikely that they would leave their home world undefended, but his scanners showed no sign of a major fleet. "Perhaps they have fled," suggested Admiral Korth. "Many species abandon their home worlds when faced with the Crown Fleet." "No," Malthrex said slowly. "The humans don't run. They're planning something." He was right. Earth's main fleet was hidden using every stealth technology that humanity and their allies had developed. Phase-shifted ships existed in a different dimension until they chose to attack. Light-bending fields made other ships invisible to sensors. Some vessels were disguised as asteroids or space debris. The Crown Fleet was flying into the largest ambush in galactic history. At the central command node, Hyunwoo and his team had successfully docked with the main station. They were now moving through corridors filled with Vareth technicians and guards, disguised as maintenance workers. "Computer core is 3 levels down," whispered demolition expert Min Su. "Heavy security between here and there. We'll make our own route," Hyun-woo replied. He activated a small device that Wu Jin had given him. The device created a localized phase field, allowing the humans to walk through walls as if they were made of air. The Vareth had never developed phase technology because they considered it too unpredictable. This was one of many technological gaps that humans were exploiting. In Earth orbit, the battle was about to begin. Emperor Malthrex had grown tired of waiting for the human fleet to reveal itself. "Begin bombardment of the planet," he ordered. "If the humans won't come out and fight, we'll destroy their world and force them to surrender." The Crown Fleet's planet-killer weapons charged up and fired at Earth. Beams of energy powerful enough to crack continents lanced down toward the human homeworld and passed harmlessly through it. "What?" Malthrex roared. "How are they doing that?" Dr. Minho's gravitational displacement fields were working perfectly. Every attack from the Crown Fleet was being redirected into empty space. Earth's cities shimmered like mirages as the deadly energy passed through them without causing any damage. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "something is wrong with our targeting systems. The planet appears to be shifting." At that moment, the ambush began. Youngsu's fleet materialized around the Crown Fleet like ghosts becoming solid. Ships appeared from every direction, some phasing into reality, others dropping their light-bending fields, still others emerging from hyperspace. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Youngsu commanded. "Show them what happens when you threaten our world." The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human ships danced between the massive Vareth vessels, too small and fast to hit with conventional weapons. Allied ships from liberated worlds attacked using tactics that the Empire had forbidden their subjects to learn. Trelawney ships used water-based weapons that shorted out Vareth electrical systems. Rashani vessels fired crystalline projectiles that grew larger as they traveled. Kelty energy beings possessed Vareth computers and turned their own weapons against them. "This is impossible!" Malthrex shouted as he watched his supposedly invincible fleet being torn apart by an enemy that refused to fight by any recognizable rules. At the central command node, Hyun-woo had reached the computer core. The room was filled with quantum, processors that controlled every Vareth military unit in the galaxy. If Dr. Chun-hee's virus could be uploaded here, it would spread to every ship, base, and weapon in the Empire. "Security teams approaching," warned Communications Officer Yu Jin. "We have maybe 2 minutes." Hyun-woo plugged the virus storage device into the central processor. Lines of code began flowing into the Vareth network, disguised as routine maintenance updates. "Upload at 60%, he reported. Back at Earth, Emperor Malthrex was learning what it meant to fight humans who were no longer hiding their capabilities. His flagship was being attacked by 3 different ships using 3 completely different technologies. Captain Yoon Young's ship was phasing in and out of reality, firing weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Lieutenant Commander Seo Jun was using captured Vareth technology enhanced with human improvements. Commander Bo Young was piloting a ship that had been built using principles from 6 different alien races. "My lord," his tactical officer called. "Out, we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Our communication networks are malfunctioning. Ships are losing contact with their bases. The virus was spreading. 90% upload complete," Hyun-woo reported from the central command node. Around him, Vareth security forces were trying to break down the door to the computer core. But Engineer Woo Jin's phase technology was keeping them out long enough for the mission to succeed. "Upload complete," Hyun-woo announced. "Virus is now in the network." Across the galaxy, Vareth military computers began receiving new instructions. The virus was designed to gradually take control of their systems without being detected. Within hours, every Vareth ship and base would be under human control. 6 months after the surrender of Emperor Malthrex, Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of his ship as it approached the Arcturus system. This was the heart of what had once been Vareth space, now the center of the largest liberation operation in galactic history. "Captain," reported Navigation Officer Yu Jin, "we're receiving signals from the surface. The Harani are ready for liberation." The Harani were an avian species that had been enslaved by the Vareth for over a century. They had been forced to work in high-altitude mining operations, their natural ability to fly exploited by their conquerors. Now, like dozens of other species across the former empire, they were waiting for human forces to set them free. But this liberation was different from the military campaigns that had defeated the Vareth fleet. This was about rebuilding an entire galaxy that had been broken by centuries of oppression. "Signal the Harani Council," Hyun-woo ordered. "Tell them we're coming not as conquerors but as friends." This message was being repeated on 47 different worlds as human ships arrived to liberate the former slaves of the Vareth Empire. Each liberation presented unique challenges, but humans had learned to work with their alien allies to solve problems that seemed impossible. On Earth, Ambassador In Young was coordinating the massive diplomatic effort required to turn a collapsed empire into a functioning galactic community. Her office was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all working together to design a new form of government. "The Trelawney want representation based on population," she explained to President Dongwu during their daily briefing. "The Rashani prefer representation based on territory. The Kelti think both ideas are primitive and want to base representation on energy contribution to the galactic community." President Dongwu rubbed his tired eyes. Running Earth had been complicated enough. Running a galaxy was giving him headaches that lasted for days. "What do the humans think?" he asked. "We think everyone gets a voice," In Young replied. Population, territory, energy contribution, they're all valid ways to measure a species' stake in the community. The challenge is finding a system that incorporates all of them fairly. The solution they were developing was unlike any government in galactic history. Instead of one species ruling others, the new Galactic Liberation Federation would be run by councils where every species had equal representation, regardless of their size or technological level. Meanwhile, Dr. Guri was working on a different kind of liberation. Her team was traveling to former Vareth research facilities, freeing alien scientists who had been forced to work on Imperial military projects. The scale of their operation was massive, she reported to the Science Council on Earth. They had research stations in every system, all working on weapons and control technologies. But they also made discoveries that could benefit everyone if we use them properly. The challenge was sorting through decades of research to separate the useful from the harmful. Vareth scientists had developed technologies that could cure diseases, improve agriculture, and enhance communication. But they had also created weapons of mass destruction and mind control devices. We're establishing joint research councils, Guri continued. Human scientists working with freed alien researchers to make sure these technologies are used to help people, not control them. On the planet Kepler-7, Engineer Kehoe was overseeing the dismantling of Vareth military installations. The massive weapons platforms that had once enforced Imperial rule were being converted into infrastructure that would help the liberated worlds rebuild. Plasma cannons make excellent fusion power generators, he explained to his mixed team of human and alien engineers. Orbital bombardment platforms can be turned into communication satellites. Even their prison ships can be converted into hospitals and schools. The work was slow and dangerous. Many Vareth weapons had self-destruct mechanisms designed to prevent them from being captured. But human engineers working with alien experts who understood the technology were gradually turning instruments of oppression into tools of freedom. The most challenging liberation was happening on Vareth Prime itself. The Imperial homeworld was home to billions of Vareth civilians who had lived their entire lives believing their empire was bringing order to a chaotic galaxy. General Nari was leading the occupation force, but this was unlike any military operation she had ever commanded. Instead of conquering the planet, her job was to help the Vareth people transition to a new way of life. Many of them are genuinely shocked by what they're learning about their empire, she reported to Earth. The government told them that other species were grateful for Vareth protection. They're having trouble accepting that their entire civilization was built on slavery. Some Vareth were adapting well to the new reality. They were working with human advisors to establish democratic institutions and learn about concepts like individual rights and species equality. But others were resisting the changes, forming underground groups that wanted to restore the old empire. We're not going to solve this with force, Nari told her officers. We have to show them that freedom works better than tyranny. It's going to take time. Time was something the galaxy was finally starting to have. For the first time in centuries, species across the galaxy could focus on building their own societies instead of serving the Empire. On the ocean world of Aquarius, the Trelawney were using their freedom to explore their own planet's depths. They had discovered vast underwater cities that the Vareth had forbidden them to visit. These cities contained technologies and cultural treasures that had been hidden for generations. Pel-Ara, now serving as the elected leader of her people, was working with human archaeologists to explore these ancient sites. We are learning so much about our own history, she told Dr. Wanho, who was leading the archaeological expedition. The Vareth told us we were a primitive species when they conquered us. But these cities show that we once had a civilization as advanced as any in the galaxy. The rediscovery of lost civilizations was happening on dozens of worlds. The Vareth had systematically destroyed the historical records of conquered species, trying to make them forget their own identities. Now, with human help, these species were rebuilding their cultural heritage. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about the fall of the Vareth Empire. In the Outer Rim systems, species that had been allied with the Empire were organizing resistance to the new galactic order. Captain Young-Soo was leading a patrol mission through the Rigel sector when his ship detected unknown vessels moving through the asteroid fields. "Captain," reported Sensor Officer Minho, "we're picking up energy signatures that match Vareth technology, but these ships aren't in our database." "Remnants?" asked Young-Soo. "Possibly, or allies of the Empire who escaped during the collapse. These remnant forces were becoming a serious problem. They were attacking liberated worlds, trying to restore Vareth rule through terrorism and sabotage. They had access to hidden weapons caches and were being funded by species that had profited from the Imperial system. The hunt for these remnants was being coordinated by Intelligence Officer Ji-Wan, who had established a galaxy-wide network of human and alien agents. Her job was to track down the remaining Imperial loyalists before they could reorganize into a serious threat. "We're finding weapons caches on dozens of worlds," she reported to Admiral Kyung-ho. "The Vareth were preparing for the possibility of a rebellion. They hid enough firepower to equip several fleets. Then we'll have to find it before they do," Kyung-ho replied. "Signal all liberation fleets. We're expanding the search operation." The search led to discoveries that shocked even the humans who thought they understood the scope of Vareth oppression. On the planet Terminus, engineer Wu Jin's team found a facility that had been experimenting with biological weapons designed to target specific alien species. They were developing diseases that would only affect Trelawney or only affect Rashani, Wu Jin reported with disgust. If a world ever rebelled, they could wipe out the entire population without affecting other species. The facility was immediately destroyed, but not before human scientists had documented everything they found. The evidence would be crucial for the war crimes trials that were beginning on Earth. Emperor Malthrex and his top generals were being held in a special facility while lawyers from dozens of species prepared cases against them. The trials would be the first time in galactic history that leaders would be held accountable for crimes against other species. "The legal framework we're creating will apply to everyone," explained Chief Prosecutor On Soo. "Human leaders, alien leaders, anyone who commits crimes against other species will face justice." This was a radical concept. In the past, each species had handled justice according to their own laws. The idea that there could be universal standards of behavior that applied to all intelligent beings was revolutionary. But it was also necessary. The galaxy was too interconnected now for species to act independently. The liberation had created a community where the actions of one species affected everyone else. Dr. Chun-Hee was working on the technological side of this interconnection. Her computer virus had given humans control of the Vareth communication network, but now she was rebuilding it. As 2 years after the fall of the Vareth Empire, Admiral Jun-Ho received the intelligence report that would change everything. He was aboard the UES Harmony, flagship of the Liberation Fleet, when Communications Officer Yu Jin brought him the encrypted message from Deep Space Scouts. "Sir," she said quietly, "you need to see this immediately. It's from the Andromeda expedition." Jun-Ho read the report twice before its meaning fully sank in. The Vareth Empire had not been alone. In the Andromeda galaxy, there was another empire, larger and more powerful than anything the Milky Way had ever seen. And according to intercepted communications, they were planning to expand into human space. "How long do we have?" Junho asked. "Unknown, sir, but the quantum signatures suggest they have ships already in transit, maybe months, maybe less." The news spread quickly through the highest levels of the Galactic Liberation Federation. On Earth, President Dongwu convened an emergency session of the Security Council. Representatives from every liberated world gathered to discuss the new threat. The hegemony of Zerion, Intelligence Director Ji-Wan explained to the assembled leaders. They control over 300 systems in Andromeda. Our scouts estimate their military forces at 10,000 ships, each one larger than anything the Vareth ever built. Ambassador In Young studied the tactical displays showing the approaching threat. "What do we know about their intentions?" "They're expansionist," Ji-Wan continued. "They've been observing our galaxy for decades, waiting for the right moment to invade. The fall of the Vareth Empire has given them that opportunity." General Nari leaned forward. "How did they not know about the Vareth collapse until now?" "Distance," replied Dr. Kyung-min. "Andromeda is over 2 million light-years away. Even with their advanced communication technology, it takes time for information to travel between galaxies." The challenge facing the Federation was enormous. They had spent 2 years rebuilding from the damage caused by Vareth rule. Now they faced an enemy that made the Vareth Empire look small by comparison. But engineer Tae Young had been working on something that might give them an advantage. In the secret laboratories beneath Earth's surface, she had been developing weapons technology that went far beyond anything humans had used against the Vareth. "It's based on the principle of quantum entanglement," she explained to the Weapons Development Committee. "If we can entangle particles in their ships with particles in our weapons, we can affect their vessels instantaneously, regardless of distance or shielding." The technology was still experimental, but early tests were promising. A quantum-entangled weapon could bypass shields, armor, and defensive systems by affecting the target ship at the molecular level. "How long before we can deploy this technology?" asked Admiral Junho. 6 months for the first prototypes," Tae Young replied. "But we'll need massive resources and cooperation from every world in the Federation. Those resources were already being mobilized." On Trelawney underwater cities, engineers were working around the clock to build quantum processors. In Rashani crystal mines, workers were extracting the rare materials needed for entanglement chambers. On Kelty energy stations, power systems were being expanded to handle the enormous energy requirements. The Federation was becoming something it had never been before, a true military alliance preparing for total war. Meanwhile, Commander Sul-Ki was leading a different kind of preparation. Her mission was to find and disable the network of spy satellites that the Zerion hegemony had been using to observe the Milky Way. "Target acquired," reported her weapons officer as their ship approached a disguised listening post in the void between galaxies. "It's using hegemony stealth technology, but our quantum scanners can penetrate it." The spy satellite was destroyed in seconds, but not before Sul-Ki's team had extracted its databanks. What they found was disturbing. "They've been watching us for over 50 years, Sul-Ki reported to Federation intelligence. "They have detailed information about every major world in our galaxy, including Earth. The hegemony knew about human capabilities, but they were making the same mistake the Vareth had made. They were judging humans by their technology rather than their adaptability. Dr. Sai-Wu was using this misconception to develop a strategic deception plan. If the hegemony Expected humans to fight like the Vareth had fought, they would be unprepared for actual human tactics. We let them think we're a conventional military force, she explained to the Strategy Council. We hide our real capabilities and let them plan for a war we're not going to fight. The deception required careful coordination across the entire Federation. Ships were disguised to look less advanced than they actually were. Military bases were built to appear smaller and weaker than their true capabilities. Even communication protocols were modified to make Federation forces seem more primitive than they really were. At the same time, the Federation was expanding its alliance network beyond the former Vareth territories. Human diplomats were making contact with independent species throughout the galaxy, offering them protection in exchange for military cooperation. Ambassador Hyo-jin was leading these diplomatic missions, traveling to worlds that had never been part of any galactic government. Her job was to convince them that cooperation was better than conquest. The hegemony will come whether you join us or not, she explained to the Council of Free Worlds. But if we stand together, we can preserve our independence. If we stand alone, we'll fall one by one. The response was mixed. Some species, remembering the Vareth Empire, were reluctant to join any large organization. Others, terrified of the approaching threat, were eager for protection. A few remained neutral, hoping to avoid the coming war entirely. But neutrality was becoming impossible. Hegemony advance scouts were already probing the outer edges of the galaxy, testing defenses and gathering intelligence. Every day brought reports of strange ships appearing near independent worlds, then vanishing before they could be intercepted. Captain Young-Soo was leading the response to these incursions. His patrol fleet was equipped with the latest Federation technology, including experimental quantum weapons and enhanced stealth systems. Contact bearing 27 Mark 8, reported his sensor officer during a patrol near the galactic rim. Configuration unknown, but energy signature matches hegemony technology. All ships, attack formation, Young-Soo ordered. Let's see what these invaders can do. The battle was brief but revealing. The hegemony scout ship was larger and more heavily armed than anything the Vareth had built, but it fought using predictable tactics that human forces had learned to counter. They're using brute force instead of strategy, Young-Soo reported after the engagement. Overwhelming firepower, heavy armor, but no tactical flexibility. This was valuable intelligence. The hegemony military appeared to be built around the concept of unstoppable force rather than adaptable strategy. Against most enemies, this would be devastatingly effective. Against humans, it might be a weakness. Dr. Min-ho was already working on ways to exploit this weakness. His new gravitational weapons could redirect the hegemony's own firepower back against them, turning their overwhelming force into a disadvantage. If they rely on massive energy output, we can use their own power against them, he explained to the weapons research team. Gravitational lenses to focus their beams, gravitational wells to trap their ships, gravitational waves to disrupt their formations. The technology was based on research that humans had been doing since before the Vareth invasion. Earth's scientists had always been interested in manipulating gravity, but they had never had the resources to build weapons-grade gravitational manipulators. Now, with the industrial capacity of dozens of worlds at their disposal, they could build gravitational weapons on a scale that had never been attempted before, but weapons alone would not be enough to stop the hegemony. The Federation needed allies, and the most important potential ally was also the most dangerous to approach, ATE. The Galactic Core, ancient beings known as the Architects, had been watching the development of younger species for millions of years. They rarely interfered in galactic politics, but the approaching hegemony invasion threatened everything they had worked to preserve. Ambassador In Young was leading the diplomatic mission to make contact with the architects. It was perhaps the most important diplomatic mission in the history of the galaxy. The architects value stability and long-term thinking, she explained to her team as their ship approached the galactic core. They won't be impressed by military power or technological advancement. They'll want to know if we can build something that will last. The meeting with the architects took place in a space station that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The beings themselves were energy constructs that had transcended physical form millennia ago. Young species, the architect's spokesperson communicated through patterns of light and sound that the translation computers could barely interpret. You seek our aid against the hegemony. We seek your wisdom, In Young replied carefully. The hegemony represents chaos and destruction. We represent cooperation and growth. The hegemony is strong. You are small. The Vareth Empire was strong too, In Young said. Strength without. 3 years after Earth's first encounter with the Vareth Empire, Admiral Yeon Woo stood on the bridge of the UES New Dawn, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for the final battle. Around her flagship, 10,000 ships from hundreds of different worlds moved in perfect coordination through the void between galaxies. This was no longer just Earth's war. The Galactic Liberation Federation had grown into something unprecedented, a true alliance of equals where former enemies worked together to protect their shared freedom. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Yu Jin, we're receiving the final transmission from Hegemony High Command. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Yan Wu listened to the familiar words of conquest and domination. The hegemony's message was almost identical to what the Vareth had said 3 years earlier. Overwhelming force, technological superiority, the futility of resistance. Send our reply, Yan Wu ordered. The message that went out to the hegemony fleet carried the same words that had once terrified an empire. Run while you still can. But this time, the warning came not from a single world, but from an entire galaxy united in its determination to remain free. Hegemony Emperor Zarthul received the transmission aboard his flagship, the Galactic Dominion. The massive vessel was larger than Earth's moon and carried enough firepower to sterilize planets. Around it, 9,999 other ships prepared for what their emperor expected to be a quick conquest. These primitives dare to threaten us? Zarthul snarled to his command staff. Show them the power of the hegemony. The opening barrage from the hegemony fleet was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Energy beams that could destroy stars lanced across space toward the Federation forces. If they had hit their targets, the war would have ended in the first minute. Instead, Dr. Minho's gravitational lenses activated throughout the fleet. The massive energy beams were caught, focused, and redirected back toward the ships that had fired them. The hegemony's own weapons became instruments of their destruction. Impossible, Zarthul roared as dozens of his ships exploded from their own redirected fire. How are they doing this? His tactical officers had no answer. In 300 systems, the hegemony had never encountered an enemy that could turn their weapons against them. But the gravitational defense was only the beginning. As the hegemony fleet tried to close the distance for conventional combat, they discovered that space itself was fighting against them. Engineer Kyung Min had spent months preparing the battlefield. Hidden throughout the region were quantum manipulators. that could alter the fundamental constants of physics in localized areas. Space became thick as water for hegemony ships, while remaining normal for Federation vessels. "Sir," reported a hegemony navigator, "our engines are losing efficiency. Space-time appears to be wrong in this area." Zarthul had ruled for 2 centuries and had never encountered anything like this. His ships were designed to operate in normal space using known physical laws. Against an enemy that could rewrite physics itself, conventional tactics were useless. The Federation fleet moved through the altered space like dancers. Their ships adapted to function in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Captain Young Su led a squadron of phase-shifting vessels that appeared and disappeared at will, striking from impossible angles. "Target their command ship," Yanwu ordered. "If we can capture their emperor, we can end this quickly." The assault on the Galactic Dominion began with something the hegemony had never seen. A weapon that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Dr. Sai Wu's quantum entanglement cannons fired particles that were connected to other particles inside, the enemy flagship. When the entangled particles were destroyed, their partners inside the hegemony ship were destroyed as well. The ship's armor and shields provided no protection against weapons that attacked from inside the target. "Hull breaches. On all decks," reported the Dominion's damage control officer. "The enemy is somehow firing through our defenses." Emperor Zarthul watched his supposedly invincible flagship being torn apart by weapons that defied everything he understood about warfare. Around him, his fleet was suffering the same fate as Federation forces demonstrated capabilities that seemed like magic. But the most devastating attack was not military. Dr. Chun-Hee's computer virus, evolved from the one that had destroyed the Vareth network, was spreading through the hegemony communication systems. "Our computers are malfunctioning," reported the hegemony technical officer. "Navigation, weapons, life support. Everything is being affected." The virus was designed specifically for hegemony technology. It turned their interconnected fleet into a liability as each infected ship passed the virus to its neighbors. Within hours, the entire invasion force was crippled by their own communication network. "Sir," his aide reported to Zarthul, "we're receiving a transmission from the enemy admiral." Admiral Yan Wu appeared on the screen, standing calmly on her bridge while chaos consumed the hegemony fleet around them. "Emperor Zarthul," she said, "your invasion has failed. Your ships are disabled and your fleet is defeated. I offer you the same choice we offered the Vareth Empire. Surrender now and live, or continue fighting and be destroyed." Zarthul looked around his bridge. His officers were struggling to maintain basic life support as the virus consumed their computer systems. Through his view screen, he could see Federation ships moving freely through space that had become hostile to his own vessels. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Complete disarmament," Yanwu replied. "Return to Andromeda. Leave this galaxy in peace. In return, your crews will be spared, and you will be allowed to rebuild your civilization according to principles of freedom and cooperation." It was a more generous offer than Zarthul had expected. Most conquerors would have demanded total submission. But these humans seemed more interested in ending the war than in gaining territory. "And if we refuse? Then you will share the fate of every other empire that has threatened the freedom of this galaxy," Yanwu said. "You will be destroyed, completely and utterly." The threat was delivered calmly, but Zarthul could see the determination in the human admiral's eyes. These beings would fight to the death to protect their independence. "We surrender," he said finally. The surrender of the hegemony fleet marked the end of the largest war in galactic history. But for President Mi Young, now serving her second term as Earth's leader, it was also the beginning of something even more important. Standing before the Galactic Federation Council 6 months later, she addressed representatives from over 300 species. The Great Hall on the space station New Geneva was filled with beings who had once been enemies, now working together to build a better future. Citizens of the galaxy, Mi-Young began. 3 years ago, the Vareth Empire demanded tribute from Earth. Today we stand not as conquerors, but as partners in the greatest experiment in galactic history. The experiment was the transformation of 2 entire galaxies from regions of conquest and oppression into a community based on cooperation and mutual respect. Former hegemony worlds were joining the Federation voluntarily, attracted by the promise of freedom and prosperity. Dr. Gyu Ri, now serving as the Federation's science director, had established research partnerships that spanned both galaxies. Technologies that had been developed for war were being converted to improve life for all species. We've learned more about the universe in the past 3 years than in the previous 3 centuries, she reported to the Science Council. When different species share knowledge freely, the rate of discovery increases exponentially. The results were remarkable. Diseases that had plagued species for millennia were being cured through cooperative research. Energy problems were being solved using techniques that combined the strengths of dozens of different technological approaches. Even the fundamental understanding of physics was advancing as species with different perspectives worked together. But perhaps the most important discovery was social rather than scientific. The Federation had proven that it was possible for radically different species to coexist peacefully and prosperously. On Vareth Prime, former Emperor Malthrex was working with human advisors to establish democratic institutions. The transition had been difficult, but the results were encouraging. Our people are learning that they can be strong without oppressing others, he told General Nari during one of their regular meetings. It is a difficult lesson for a warrior culture, but we are learning. The Vareth were not the only former empire adapting to the new reality. Throughout Andromeda, hegemony worlds were experimenting with forms of government that gave citizens a voice in their own governance. It was not always successful. Some worlds descended into chaos when rigid imperial control was removed. Others fell prey to local strongmen who tried to establish their own miniature empires. But most were finding ways to govern themselves that respected the rights of all their citizens. Ambassador In Young was overseeing the transition process, working with local leaders to establish institutions that could maintain peace and prosperity. Without oppression, the key is patience, she explained to her staff. These societies have been authoritarian for centuries. Democracy is a skill that has to be learned, not imposed.